Producer Robbie Fisher, who made this possible. Thank you to Don Warren, I don't know where you are, Don, but who shot all those incredible, most of those incredible interviews and oversaw the rest. Move up, Mike. Move up, really? Okay. Thank you to Tom Roach, who just gave me the mic direction, who helped me with the edit, helped polish the edit and make it broadcast ready. Thank you to Randy Everett, who took bits and pieces of audio from across decades and across different places and made it hang together into a wonderful, clear thing you can hear every word. Thank you to Ward Emling, not only for interviewing us, but for Save Our Station. Good on you. Good. And thank you to everybody who am I missing? Thank you to Ed Ford, who not only made it possible, who did the Pinwheel logo. If you saw the Pinwheel logo out there, that was him. Yes, and yes, that right there, that one right there. Okay, you guys, and thank you to everybody that I missed, and thank you to everybody who gave photographs, who gave recordings, who gave memorabilia, who gave interviews, all of it. It was such a group effort all the way along. So thank you all for that. Okay, so. Any questions? Hi, Anna.
Hi, I have a question from the other room.
Okay. Hi, guys.
Sorry, I'll take them away. How many DJs are still working / alive?
Can actually, you know something? I want to say before we move on to the people who are working, that there's some people in the film who are no longer with us. Sergio Fernandez passed away. Bruce Owen is no longer with us. Curtis Jones, Sebastian is no longer with us. Marshall McGee is no longer with us. And some people are still with us. Yeah. Art Reed, who you saw twice. You saw him in the WZZQ picture and in the Miss 103 picture, is here this evening. Art, would you like to stand up and say hi? Okay, he's up here. There you go. Come on, Art. Woo! That is wonderful. And the gentleman up on this stage. I'm going to let you guys answer that.
What else? What else?
Well, who's alive? Who's still working? You guys still working?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll tell you another big part of ZZQ that we lost was David Perkins.
Oh, that's true. Yes. Thank you.
And there are a lot of the old DJs that are still with us. Bill Cruz. I don't know if some of you remember Bill. He's in Natchez. But yeah, David Perkins was a big part of the station. Oh, we all got mics now.
Oh yeah.
Cool beans. Well, what did y'all think? What did you? Yeah. All right, I'm going to say this. I said it Friday morning. Ann and I did an interview here at MPB for the news, and I said it then, but I'm going to say it again. I honestly don't think that this could have possibly. It was almost like manna from heaven or something. I don't think anybody else could have done this. I think it had. A lot of things had to fall into place, mainly for this lady right here. She had to, yeah. You did. Number one, she grew up listening to ZZQ. Number two, and she had a passion for it. She knew what it was about. Number two, she later went into the radio business, so she understood that. Number three, in later years, yeah, that was probably a mistake. Number three, she worked in Atlanta for Turner Network. She had a real solid television and documentary promotional background. And number four, somebody mentioned earlier, she's smart as a whip. And number five, she's tenacious as hell. And
there you go.
Let me tell you, she went through reams and reams of reel-to-reel tapes, cassette tapes, photographs, memorabilia, hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours. She flew all over the country to interview these people that would have that made it what it is. So Ann Ford, I don't think anybody else could have done this.
Well, thank you. Thank you. You know, about the tapes, I just have to also add that Kent Bruce at Malico digitized a lot of them. And a lot of them that we weren't really sure what was on. Ed Ford spent all last summer digitizing, so bravo to him too. So
And this man here was the reason you had him to begin with, I think, a lot of them.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Malcolm White for allowing me to leave my stuff on top of Helen Mouse for the better part of 40 years and never charged me a dime. So that was it. Yes, ma'am.
All right, we have one additional question from the screening room. Now that we have social media access, why can't we give WZZQ another go online?
I've been broke before. I don't want to be broke again.
How can I follow that? No, I no longer work on air, on radio. I still do some work, documentaries for Morgan State University, and some of my stuff is online, YouTube, and some other places if you want to see what I used to look like. Well, you already saw what I used to look like. I challenged Ann when she invited me to be on this panel because I was at the station such a short time compared to you guys. I had no idea that it had exploded into such a cultural phenomenon when it moved to BC Road. And then I said, but wait a minute, Ann, I got it. You want me here because I'm going to be the oldest person in the room. And I'm fine for that, yeah.
Look, I was listening to that station many years before I ever dreamed of working there, and I listened to you, and I had listened to you, but who remembers Perez doing Listeners Classified?
Get away from me.
Listeners Classified was a soap opera many times, and with continuing segments, and it was brilliant.
Can I also add one more thing? And we saw him throughout the documentary. Bruce Owen, when Phil Seymour was there briefly when I started. I started in February 1969. Bob Pittman, some of you may know this, some of you don't. Bob was a student at Millsaps, as was I. There was a few of them. Most of us were in college. Bruce was at Mississippi College. Bill Cruz, I think, was at Mississippi College. Anyway, so Bob moved from JDX-FM to JDX-AM because he had a great voice. And then he dropped out of Millsaps to take a DJ job in Denver. And we said, why is he doing that? And of course, Bob had a vision because later he ended up in Buffalo to start a little thing called MTV. And now I think he's running iHeartRadio. So Bob didn't really, with all due respect to my Millsaps colleagues, he didn't really need Millsaps to do what he wanted to do.
That is correct.
He did okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just want to say thank you, Ann, for talking to Bruce, and I know that Bruce put you in touch with me, and yeah.
Yes, sir, the gentleman in the glasses.
Would you share your story about being on the radio the first time that you called in and said, hey, I've got an idea for a commercial, and they said, come on down.
Oh. Wow, way to put me on the spot there, Don. All right, I was 15 years old, Jackson, Mississippi. I was listening to, I think ZZQ had right on the edge there, yeah. And I called in for a song. I don't remember what it was, but Kevin picked up the phone, and I requested my song, and he heard my voice, and I sounded then as I sound now, basically, and he started chatting me up. And he said, "How old are you?" And I said, I'm 15." And it was like, you could hear the parking brake being pulled on. But then he said something. He said, I need a voice to do a promo. So why don't you come down to the station and cut a promo? And I did. Like, okay, whatever. Drop it, go out there. And he was running a show. He came out for a few minutes, took me back, and I recorded the spot. He gave me a shirt for my trouble, and he sent me on my way. And that, with the tape, with the commercial on a tape, and he did not make a pass at me. And so I took that tape over to WCCL AM 1590, and got a little job there, and that wound up working my way through high school and college in radio. So anyway, that's my connection to WZZQ and to radio here. It completely informed kind of everything that came after that. So thank you for asking. Yes, ma'am?
Mike in the back.
Mike in the back.
Mike Duke, go ahead.
Oh.
I'd love to share a line from Bruce Owen that has to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest tagline I ever heard coming out of a song. Bruce was working a Saturday morning, and he played a Maria Muldaur track from her album that had Midnight at the Oasis on it, only he played the track Don't Feel My Leg. And my mother was in the living room when that thing was on, and she was kind of shaking her head and wondering, what the heck am I listening to? Bruce comes out of the song in his slow, cool delivery and says, Maria Muldaur, laying down the rules for a night at the drive-in. My mother and I both lost it right there. But I'd like to ask Perez real quick, before the days of the term politically correct, so I know that's not why you did it, hearing impaired jungle feline, where did that go?
Actually, I stole that from Victor. I'll cop to it. I used it more often than he did, of course, but thank you very much.
Bruce Owen was a very nice man. One of my favorite Bruce memories was when I first went to work at ZZQ. I was reading the news one Saturday morning, and I read a story about the Gulf of Mexico, and he called me in after the newscast, and he said, "How do you spell Gulf?" And I said, G-U-L-F. I had pronounced it Guff. And he said, "There's an L in there." So I'll never forget that.
May I tell a story about music that we couldn't play? So, and sometimes it had not to do with the music, but the album cover. How many of you have heard of a group called Blind Faith? Yeah. Okay, and you know what was on the cover of Blind Faith? Mm-hmm. Well, the bosses didn't know what was on the cover of Blind Faith.
Of course they didn't.
And we were playing Blind Faith, and somebody told them, there's a naked girl on the album cover of Blind Faith, and they're playing that song all the time. So they came upstairs and took the album. Wait, that's not all. The White Album. You know, when you open the White Album up, they took that album. And, one more, Sympathy for the Devil. We were told that we could not play that on Sunday at all. And we could only play it during the week after 10 o'clock. True story.
Was Blind Faith on the weird wall?
No, it was on the regular wall. Yeah. But I tell you what, I shouldn't tell these stories.
No, go ahead, tell us.
When I first started working there, I came on right after the church service, or some days I'd have to go up to the church service. And I back time burned down the mission one Sunday. And the church came in right as Elton John was playing the outro. Thank God nobody was listening.
Questions? Anybody from other?
Ramon.
Oh, yes, sir.
Ramon.
Yes, ma'am.
This is
Do y'all remember the Diddy Wah Diddy? Anybody used to read the Diddy Wah Diddy? SX Ramon made you laugh.
Before there was an SX Ramon, there was a scared little girl who her first radio job was at the giant radio station WNLA in Indianola, Mississippi. And I was a ZZQ super fan. I lived, bled, you know, it's crazy. And by hook or by crook, I'm still, well, I know how, and I'm not going to tell the story because it involved my mother being drunk. She met Marshall McGee and drunkenly told Marshall McGee, my daughter loves your radio station and you need to give her a job. And somehow I ended up running the board on Sunday nights for Robert W. Morgan and America's Top 40. I think my only broadcasting was like the ID at the top of the hour or something. And then having to run the board for Howard Lett's public service show.
Wow.
Wow.
There's a
One
name from that.
But Scott was here calling up and hanging up. I had to learn to roll tape really quick when nobody would call. Scott went to bed or whatever. But I didn't know anybody in Jackson. I knew nothing. You know, I just knew that I loved the music. And when they put me in the board in the JDX AM studio, Perez was on the air across. I don't know why. Maybe not. Maybe he came on later that night. But Bill Ellison was reading the news. And y'all, I fell in love with this man. But he and Dave Herring and Randy Bell were some of the very first people that welcomed me into the JDX CZQ family. And I just want you to know, Billy, that I could never run the board properly during your newscast because I was always shaking because you were so good looking.
Notice she's got on thick glasses still.
You know, my nose works.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anything from?
Teens, tell them whose sister you are.
No,
No. Okay. Okay.
it's like
But-
Victor tried his best to get here tonight, y'all.
Yeah, Victor tried to. Yes, he was at LAX. His Dallas-Fort Worth connection got rained out. He was unable to join us. But can we just have a round of applause for Victor? Yes, back in the back.
And thank you. The dark drives that you have in there, I don't know what made you think to do that. I went to Bill Saps. I listened to ZZQ before I really realized I was going to be coming to Jackson.
Oh.
I would sneak out and listen to it on my daddy's radio.
Oh.
Because I couldn't listen to it before midnight. They'd have to go to sleep. But I would be driving back and forth from the coast to Millsaps at night listening to ZZQ. And so when I see this, it just all brings it.
Thank you. I'm really glad. Okay, I just have to give a really quick answer. I completely ripped that idea off from Alex Warren and Don Warren's movie, Fertile Ground, where there are these lovely long drone shots that are so beautiful. And I looked at those and said, yes, that's what I want.
No, and David Lynch.
And David Lynch, yes. Woo, raise your head. Yeah. Okay, but I just, yes, sir.
I want to see if there's any discussion among you of the impact that you had on racial relations in Mississippi. In 1970-71, I was a senior at Forest High School, the first year of desegregation, and we had a vote of who we wanted to come and to host an event we were having. Willie Pinkston, everybody wanted Willie. He graciously came to Forest, Mississippi, and hosted this event, and it was such a yeah, we gave you a pair of cufflinks for it, I think. But sitting here, I realized how homogenized we were in our decision for Willie to come. And that time period was somewhat unusual. So I want to see if there's ever been any discussion of the impact that ZZQ had on what was going on in the state at that time.
May I just say thank you very much, because I knew that I had spoken at a high school off I-20. But I could not for the life of me remember where It was, and no, Perez, it was not because we were doing what you did when you got to BC Road. Just kidding, Perez, just kidding. Anyway, not at that time. But I do remember being surprised to have been invited to the school, and I was, pleased to, and it may have been my very first, it was my very first speaking engagement. As a on-air person, radio, TV, whatever. And you invited me because I was on the radio station? Must have been because I wasn't on TV in 70, 71. Wow. Well, thank you. And the teacher was the teacher and the principal welcomed me. I don't remember the cufflinks, though. Of course, at my age, there are a lot of things I don't remember. Exactly. But thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes?
So, I have another question.
Okay.
Someone asked about a spaceship and or like extraterrestrial type show, something that was on the show. They felt like it was a series that y'all did, and he couldn't remember the name of it. It was like a spaceship or a UFO type thing. Do y'all remember that maybe you did?
Are you asking questions about things that happened late at night? I don't believe the statute of limitations has run out on that yet. It may have, but I'm not clear.
Yes, sir.
It seems to me my dear friend Scott Mateer was at the end of ZZQ, and I saw his picture a minute ago, but I know he and I went to a ZZQ movie at Jackson Square in 1973. I have no idea whether you guys have to have been around the station at that time, but any memory of what that would have been about? Something about blowing up the tall tower of Channel 3?
That was before my time, so I don't know.
That was during my exile.
Is it possible that it was the Great Hitchhike Race? That it was called the Great Hitchhike Race? Because Sergio was in a movie called The Great Hitchhike Race. Do you know it? It was shot in Hattiesburg and around here. I only know it because somebody mentioned it on message board. That might have been it, because multi-talented guy, that's Sergio. Al?
Being that you could get away with a lot of things on the air on ZZQ that you couldn't on regular radio stations. Songs like Showbiz Kids.
Would you stop? They don't know yet.
Captain Jack. What else?
They still don't know. Stop it.
What other songs? Talk about that.
Wow. Oh, no. I can't.
Rotary Connection turned me on.
Yeah.
Yellow Snow.
Yeah. Oh, no. Nobody knows about that. We played that when I did an AM thing for a while during my exile period, and we didn't edit it, and they never heard it. Just don't tell them. Don't ever, ever tell them.
Anything from the other, Mr. Walton, sir?
I just want to say, I want to own a copy of this somehow, and pay money for it. So, is there any way that's going to happen, maybe as a fundraiser for MTV Foundation?
This is well, you're back there. Yes. For the foundation, yes. I will be honest with you. And this is a great transition into what I wanted to say next, which is I have to give the biggest shout out, the biggest thank you from the bottom of my heart to Mississippi Public Broadcasting. Not only did they put on this event, which was like as close to Cinderella's ball as I'm ever going to get, they put on this amazing event, but when I went to I don't know where John is, but when I went to John Gibson, thank you, initially and said, I have this idea, but there's all this rock and roll music in it. There's all this license. I think people own this, right? Don't you have to pay for that? And he said, well, we have a license. We have a blanket license that will cover it if it airs on MPB. So that became my goal, was to get it to air on MPB, because I tried it with Needle Drop, and it was like, no bueno. So MPB made it possible for me to air this movie the way that I envisioned it. So thank you. Thank you. Hang on a sec. I have to also give a heartfelt thank you to the Mississippi Humanities Council. They gave me a grant. Yes. That helped offset the production cost of this, but I think much more importantly, it funded an event back in 2022 called the WZZQ Listener Event. Were you guys, any of you guys there? I know some of you were. Yeah. It was an amazing event, and it brought people together. It became a place where we got listener interviews and where we shot interviews with Bruce Owen, who's no longer with us, with Curtis Jones, who's no longer with us, with Robert St. John, who is very much still with us. And it really elevated the entire production. So thank you to the Mississippi Humanities Council. Stuart, are you here? Stuart, thank you, Stuart Rockoff. Woohoo! Okay, you had a question.
Not so much a question, but I want to know, give me your top 5 what pops up if you had on the weird wall.
Good question. I was wondering the same thing, Perez.
I honestly can't remember, and I wonder why. Do you?
Not one, one from each of you.
Well, now I was in the newsroom, so I didn't.
Oh,
I'm
now
not the
you're
music
gonna
guy.
now you're gonna back away.
But I got a guess. The Flock. You remember the Flock?
Absolutely.
Okay. Was that the Weird Wall?
Yeah. The Flock did Tall Tree. They also did a version.
I just remember Sergio playing
Yeah,
the Flock.
they also did a version of Tired of Waiting. Yes, I have tons of information that is worthless. Still in my head, and I don't know why.
We didn't have a weird wall. It was just one wall, and everything was weird.
In that closet upstairs.
In that closet upstairs. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember 30 minutes of the Bo Diddley lick?
I do remember that. I had people calling me up going, please, I'm begging you, stop. I'm begging you to stop. And that just made me want to go on and on. Because nobody, but nowhere would you find somebody that would play the exact same lick for half an hour.
Why did you do that?
Because I could.
I have a serious question for you guys. Just one at a time. I know I asked you this in the interview, but I'm going to ask you again. Looking back at that time, I know, Randall, you weren't here that long, but you were here at a really formative time. And it was a really formative time in your career. So when you guys look back, what is the one thing that really sticks with you? I'm not even going to say proud of, but the thing that sticks with you about the station. And it could be WZZQ or ZZQ.
Oh, thank you. The fact that we could get away with it. I mean, there was music that was out there that was not happening anywhere except in that building. And we were purveying it, and people were actually listening to it. And that was nice. And to see people who are still involved today, because we are fading fast. I'm just saying.
That's true, though. Yeah, so keep in mind the era, and I started in 1969 on Sundays. I think after Pittman. Pittman signed on, and I picked it up in the afternoon. So Mississippi was still in the throes of the quote-unquote post-civil rights movement, but anti-war movement was underway. And there was a lot of friction and political stuff. Not to say there still isn't, but that's a whole other conversation. But what sticks with me is that I was welcomed into that station by Bruce, by everybody. I didn't feel, the music was weird, I gotta tell you, okay? All right. I have to just tell you, I had not been introduced to Dusty Springfield or In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, any of that stuff in my, had never heard of it. And I had to listen to this station over and over 2 weeks before I got the job, just so I would know a little bit about the music, but I eventually began to like it. So I was introduced to a new musical genre that spoke to me. But the other thing was that I had some familiarity with it because I had been to school in Connecticut for a minute at Wesleyan, and we could pick up WHCN in New York, which is where I got the idea of using my last name. There was a guy named Morgan, and Morgan, I don't know Morgan's first name, but it was just Morgan on that station. And so I'd heard the music, but I really wasn't that familiar with it, but I became familiar with it. So that stuck with me, that it was a welcoming environment. Never felt any ostracism or race-related stuff. People called me up and asked for records, and I played them. Looking back on it, it's almost as if that somebody dropped dust on us, all of us. Yep. And created a kind of sensibility of openness and interest, and that I wish we could bring back or recreate.
I really do believe that there was something in the stars that was special about the people that coalesced at this radio station, the talent. There was something there, and that made it special. But anyway, what I remember most is my 5 years at ZZQ was spent in news. I didn't, although I did one air shift, I made sure that I got to say that I did one. I kept bugging David Perkins, who was the program director at the time. I said, if somebody doesn't show up, let me know, and I'll fill in. And sure enough, it happened one Friday, and I got to actually do one air shift on ZZQ. I did a Friday night, and the feature album was Cat Scratch Fever.
All right.
That's about all I remember about the night. I was too busy trying to make sure I didn't have dead air. But anyway, what I remember most is my education in journalism from the people I worked with there, mainly Cindy Brunson and Randy Bell. Cindy is here. I saw her earlier, but I want to give her a shout out.
Hi, Cindy.
There she is. Yeah.
Hey.
Cindy was already a legendary broadcaster in Jackson when she hired me, and I was in awe, and she taught me a lot, and I'll never forget it. But she and Randy Bell taught me the importance of integrity and truth in journalism. We had a great news department at that radio station. I mean, that's one of the proudest things I've ever done in my career was to work there, because we relentlessly tried to tell the truth and not be sensational. And although on ZZQ we did some, I had a buddy yesterday, we were talking about this event tonight, and he said, you played the music? I said, no, I was in news. He said, oh, you were in ZZQ News. He said, did y'all do real news or hippie news? And I said, we did hippie news. We had subscriptions to 2 news services. One was called Earth News, and one was called Zodiac. And but I was most proud of my association with Cindy and Randy and what we did in news.
Was Howard Litt there?
Howard was there. Yeah. At that time, there was no internet, of course, so if something happened at 2 p.m. in Jackson, the only place to find out about it was radio. And we had a 6-person, if most of the time, full-time news team, and we beat the socks off the TV stations usually. By the time 6 p.m. news came on, it was old news by then. We've been talking about it for 4 hours.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I was most proud of.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't hear much about Johnny Summer in your movie. Did y'all have contact with him, and how is he doing?
Yes. Johnny Summer, the message about WJDX becoming WZZQ, that was Johnny Summer. There are a few photographs in there. He shared that with us. He shared photographs with us. He's actually doing great. I invited him tonight. He was unable to join us because he was in Greece. Poor baby, so.
Probably in search of a jukebox.
Holy cow, yes. Boy, he restores these jukeboxes. I mean, he's no Ed Inman, but he's great. All right, well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for all of your, thank you for
Thank
coming.
you, Ed.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you all for coming. So Monday night, 8 o'clock, you can watch the film again. You can also stream it. Because of our tricky music rights, you stream it, watch it on television Monday night at 8, right? And you can go to our website and check it out there. So there's also food and drink still out there. They're still out there. If y'all want to grab a cocktail, mingle, grab some food on the way out, you're more than welcome. Thank you for coming.